person interested in football and soccer, it's highly likely you've seen or heard about Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso, a quirky collegiate American football coach, was first introduced to us a few years ago in a few TV spoofs when NBC secured the broadcast rights to the English Premier League here in the US. In 2020, the unassuming, soccer-naive, comedic sketch character came to life in his own hit show. Hello everyone, this is Rev Brad, and you're listening to the Soccer Chaplains United podcast, From the Touchline. As a football chaplain of some 20 years, I thought I would share some lessons from Ted Lasso. Now, just a quick caveat. I've listened to a couple things about Ted Lasso, namely some of the influences and resemblances from John Wooden's coaching philosophy. I know about some of those things, but I've purposely stayed away from listening to too much of the commentary around the show, other than a Brene Brown podcast with show actors and producers Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt. I don't want to over-spiritualize or idolize Ted Lasso, but I do want to offer a chaplain's view into some of the positive pieces from what we see on the screen that I believe are largely missing from the game and sorely, sorely needed. So whether you're an athlete, a coach, a staffer with a beautiful game, I think this series will be fun, creative, and have a little bit of everything for everyone around the game. One other note, I'm recording a bunch of these episodes so that during busy points in the MLS season, there can still be a weekly podcast even if I can't get a guest or have a particular topic. So if you're listening regularly, when you hear the Ted Lasso theme music at the start of the pod, you can go ahead and skip forward to the 2.5-minute mark and skip this intro and our typical podcast theme roll. Thank you for listening to the From the Touchline podcast. Here we go with a lesson from Ted Lasso.
Space, and he's found the back of the net.
Just a little off foot, thinking he's going to go far post. Not strong enough with his right hand.
Whips that one in. Far post, almost made him ends, and they have. He has the hat-trick. The second in his career. The third of the night. The hat-trick hero.
Talked about you're not going to be able to sustain that kind of pressure.
To the corner. Goes towards the near post, and you're the angle, and what a goal! What a goal!
Season 1, Episode 1, Lesson 1. So I think there's actually going to be many lessons from Lasso in a particular episode, and as the season unfolds, there's likely to be some reinforcement or development on particular lessons. So I'm not going to claim these as definitive, but the more as I observe them and keep notes, I want to share the lessons that I see. Could be more, could be less, could be different, but run with me here. How's that for a disclaimer? Well, one of the first lessons we see and learn from Coach Ted Lasso in the show is the importance of knowing people's names and remembering people's names. Lasso does this with a number of people around AFC Richmond, but the most striking personality that we see this lesson play out is with Nathan. Nathan, the kit man, or equipment manager, if you're not familiar with the term, is essentially a worker bee at the club. He's not in a position of prominence or importance, at least not in most people's eyes. And Lasso comes in, and right away we watch as he learns his name, and then later he remembers who Nathan is, and he continues to call him by his name. If there's ever an important lesson to learn, I think this is a beautiful one to realize right from the start. No matter what our role in football, whether we're an elite athlete, head manager, a brilliant executive, or a wealthy owner, do we know the names of the cleaners, the stadium guards, the cooks, the medical staff intern, the front office or ticket sales staff person? As a chaplain of some 20 years around a professional team, I didn't always take note of these things. I remember in the beginning of my time as a chaplain, my tendency was to focus on the athletes that I was working with, and remembering their names, their spouse or partner, and children's names, well, that seemed hard enough. But the more that I continued to work in the space, I saw that often the athletes move about the game a lot. It's the part-time security guard. It's the stadium cleaning staff that typically are more constant, and they usually work really hard for a much lower wage, and certainly none of the glory. So it's been my relationship with some of these people that have sometimes opened doors of opportunity that might have been previously closed, and all because I took the time to learn their name, to learn a little bit about them, to show them some love, some grace, and some care for the things that they go through, the things that they're facing in life. Well, in the Bible, we see the importance of names too. In Genesis 2, we see God give man the name Adam, and this closely related to the Hebrew words for man and for ground. But not only does God give Adam his name, He gives him the creative task of naming all the different animals. I think this is amazing. God does all the work to create the animals, but then he goes, I'm going to see what Adam calls them. And so he literally kind of parades them in front of Adam to see what he's going to name. I think this is one of the beautiful parts that we get to see about God in the scriptures. And so Adam goes on, he names all the animals, and eventually goes on to name his wife Eve, whom God creates later. And then throughout all the pages of Scripture, we see the importance and the value of people's names. People's names are important for giving people hope or bringing a reminder of one of God's truths, one of his characteristics, and for many other reasons. You know, when someone knows our name, when someone remembers us by name, it means the world to us. It helps us to bind ourselves to others. It helps us commit ourselves to working hard for each other, to serving them, to loving them, and more. So today, when you head into the training ground or the stadium, take an extra minute. Get to know the cleaning staff person you see in the hallway every week. Sit for a moment, maybe scribble out a short note of thanks to the kit person, to the equipment person. Get to know the part-time security guard's name. Get to know about their family. Maybe even ask, who's the least important person at the club? Say their name. Remember their name. This simple investment will produce a 100-fold return, I promise. Well, thanks for listening to this lesson from Ted Lasso. This is Rev Brad coming to you from the Touchline.